Thank you very much, Diana. It's really a pleasure to do this seminar and to share with the insights that also for me were actually, some was really new when I joined the EULAR Congress organization. So I will now share my screen. I hope that you can all see my presentation now. So my name is Caroline Ospelt. I'm a group leader at the Center of Experimental Rheumatology at the University Hospital in Zurich. And today, of course, I speak to you not as my role as group leader, but as my role in EULAR, in the EULAR Congress Committee, and I was past abstract chair, and I'm the current Congress chair of EULAR. And I will explain to you in the course of this webinar what this actually means and what the role is that I had to fulfill and still, or I was allowed to fulfill and still do. So first, actually, I want to start with this beautiful people here. So this is the team that is behind the EULAR Congress. And you can see it's our EULAR weekly discussion. So every week we meet to discuss the program of the Congress. And this I do already now for almost 2 years. And so this is me as Congress chair, and then Christian De Jaco, who is not in the picture, who you just can see the name, who is the current abstract chair. And then Andrea, who is the COO, so she does all the operational organization. And then on the picture, you see Georgina, Kanika, and Katarina. And these are really the women that organize everything behind the EULAR Congress. And I think it's, first of all, really nice to give them a face. So when you write to the EULAR Congress email address, or if you have a question, or if you submit your abstract, these are the people that will deal with it. And I think it's really important to mention that this is not just some random anonymous organization, but these are really people that take care about that everybody has actually a good experience by submitting the abstracts, and they really want that the abstracts can be submitted and that the Congress is running smoothly. So they are willing to help. So please keep in mind when you address EULAR, and if you have a problem, that you can really just ask them, because they are there for your help. And I think it's also nice to remember when you write emails, sometimes the emails or the social media comments are not so nice. I think people forget that these are people that really want to make a good Congress. And I think it's always important to also address these people with respect, because they really try to give their best. And sometimes it's just not too easy to make everything right. And to, of course, people are disappointed sometimes when abstracts might be rejected or something doesn't work. So please treat them with respect and don't be shy to address them, because they're really nice people. So, but then I want to go into the depth. So what do you do when you want to submit the EULAR abstract? The first is please read the instructions on the website. I know it's a lot of information, so that's why I would try to just guide you through the important points, but they are there because they're important. So the first thing is, of course, they have to be submitted online. I think this is not a question nowadays. The second point is very important as well. So no salami slicing. Some abstracts that are submitted to EULAR, they are just, there's one huge study, and then you see that the same authors actually, they just made 3 or 4 or even 5 abstracts from one study, and each abstract just addresses one specific question of this project. Sometimes this might be that this can happen. For instance, if you have a big project and then there are 2 PhD students that work on it, then sometimes each of them wants to submit an abstract. This can be exemptions, but sometimes it's really that the same group of authors, they submit similar abstracts and it's exactly the same text, just the results sometimes then are different. It's really not well received from the reviewers and from the committee, so don't do it. I don't know why people do it. I think it decreases their chances that one of them gets accepted. If the quality is really good, then one of these abstracts will be accepted. And it's a long discussion, I can tell you, because this often is detected by the reviewers and by the committee. And then these abstracts are discussed in detail. And then the decision is very, very strict. So it's not a good thing to do this. It will be viewed very critical. And at the end, anyway, you will get one presentation or one poster and not several. So please don't do this. Then the abstracts that are submitted should not be published or accepted for publication in a journal. So if the abstract or the data in the abstract is already published in a journal or is accepted for publication, they cannot be submitted anymore as a EULAR abstract. So they can also not be presented in a very old meeting. So we don't want to present abstracts at EULAR 2024 that have been in the exact same way accepted already at ACR 2 years ago. So this is just because we want novelty, and this should not be abstracts that are old. Of course, if you have new data and you add more to your study, that's a different thing. But usually this should be new data. And then there's also the EULAR embargo. So that means you can actually present or submit abstracts that are also presented at other meetings. But this should be noted in the comments. The people just want to know whether this abstract has been accepted somewhere else to be viewed. Let's say at ACR, for instance, or at national meetings. And this is possible until the last week of March, usually, when the results are out. So once you know that you have an accepted abstract at EULAR, you cannot present this data in April or in May, for instance, at another meeting, because then we lose novelty again in the EULAR. So these are the general rules that should be looked at when you submit an abstract. So let's say your abstract fulfills all these rules, everything is fine. You will go to the submission site. And this is new this year, because what we discussed is that we want to give case reports a bit a different platform. We always had case reports submitted, but it was always a bit of a problem with the reviewing, because usually case reports get very heterogeneous reviewer scores, some valued case reports, some others found in between these research abstracts, they have actually nothing to do. So it was always a bit complicated to give the case reports a good platform. So that's why now we separated case reports from scientific abstracts. So if you have a case report, please don't submit in the scientific abstract submission, but submit an abstract in the case report submission. And that means there are a bit different rules also for reviewing now and for how it is actually rated. So the case report, first of all, what they need is informed consent from the patients. That is really important because often also pictures are shown. The case report should really be exceptional and educational. So these are now the criteria for the case report submissions. We had other criteria for the scientific abstract submission, and we will come to this later, like novelty and scientific relevance. And of course, this cannot be put one-to-one to case reports. So this should really be the educational and the exceptional cases should be presented. Then also the build-up of these case reports is now a bit different. So there's the background, but then there is, as a second point, the case presentation, and then there is an own point on learning points for clinical practice. So this should be really stressed if you want to submit a case report, because these are the points that are also be reviewed and scored at the end. For the scientific abstract submissions, we will go later on the points that are actually checked by the reviewers, because I assume that most of the abstracts are actually submitted still in the scientific abstract submission. So what happens when you press this submit your abstract button? What you come now is to these tracks. So first you select the track you want to submit. One is clinical or basic translational research. Then we have the health professionals, the patients, PARE research, and the pediatrics. So these are the first decisions that you take. Once you click on these tracks, excuse me, you have to select your topic. For the clinical and for the basic translational science, these topics basically represent the diseases you are looking at. So you have all the diseases here. If you don't find your disease, you just go to other diseases. And if you have a study that includes several of these diseases, because maybe you do a comparative analysis, then it's across the diseases. For the health professional and the PARE track, they are a bit special topics because they are more approaches that are taken and they more relate to the previous topics that we had how to submit. So this is a bit different. And also for the pediatrician track, because in a way this is already covered with this. When you press pediatrician track, that means you cover up a pediatric rheumatic disease. So for the pediatric, and after you selected this, the next thing you have to do is select keywords. This is very, very important. And I know this is something that often people do in the last moment and they just click something. But it's really something you will see throughout the webinar. This is crucial in so many different aspects that you select really keywords that describe your abstract very well. Because what you want to do with these keywords is that you want to place your abstract to the right reviewer, first of all, so that it's really assessed by people that know about the research that you do, that it's also compared with similar abstracts. It's just also a matter of being fair, that you need to be in a group with your abstract where comparable abstracts are, so that we can really see which is an outstanding abstract and which might lack a bit of information that is found in other abstracts. And then also because the sessions are built like this, you will see this afterwards. So you also want that your abstract is presented in a session where actually other relevant abstracts in this field are, because at the end of the day, what your aim should be if you submit an abstract to EULAR is that you want to discuss your research with people in your field and that you want to get honest feedback on the research topic. And sometimes this might be maybe a bit negative. And I know some people, they want to submit in other categories because they think they then get reviewers that maybe are a bit more mild with them than when they put in the actual category. I think that doesn't work because actually often then these abstracts are picked out and they are put back to the right track. And it's just not how the system should be exploited. I think here is really important that you select keywords that really describe the research that you did. It's a quite difficult balance to create such a keyword list. Of course, we wanted to include as many keywords as possible so that people can describe in a meaningful way what they did. But on the other hand, we cannot put too many abstract keywords because otherwise you really have to scroll through all these keywords until you find something that is relevant for you, and this will just take a lot of time. So it is a balance, and this list changed year by year, probably will change next year again, because it's just work in progress. We know it's not perfect, and if you don't find a keyword that really describes your work, then just try to think a bit, which keyword would you describe research that is similar to mine? So you always have to keep in mind these keywords will put the abstract into a group with other research that is similar to yours. So if you don't think they are the perfect keywords, just look for the ones where you think, okay, if I put these keywords, then I think the right reviewers will see it and I will be put in the right session. You have to select a minimum of 2 keywords, a maximum of 5. I think the more the merrier. So the more keywords you put, the better your abstract can be actually categorized, and the easier it will be to find a place for these abstracts at the reviewers, but also then in the sessions. So then you clicked your keywords and you submit your abstract. And then you wait, usually, for the decision. For an email that will tell you where your abstract will be presented and if your abstract will be presented. And the question that I will now answer is what happens actually to our abstract once it's submitted. So this brings me to the organization behind and how is the Congress Committee organized. And as I mentioned, there's always an abstract chair and there's a Congress chair. And these are the 2 roles that are year after year filled by the same people. So Marta Mosca was first the abstract chair, then she was the Congress chair, then I was the abstract chair with her, then I became the Congress chair. Now Christian is the abstract chair. Next year, Christian will be the Congress chair, and there will be no one abstract chair. So like this, it's really assured for EULAR that is a bit of consistency in this team. And it's really nice because I learned a lot from Marta, what the task of a Congress chair is and how she did it and how she organized. And she could share with me also the experience she had as an abstract chair. And I do the same now with Christian. I can help him in some decisions and I can help him getting organized because I did that work last year. And this year he can look and hopefully also see a bit how I do the Congress chair. And then next year, he can be the Congress chair and can give tips to the next abstract chair. Now, the separation is like this, that the Congress chair is responsible for the invited speaker sessions. So the Congress chair organizes all the readily set program that is already done. So this is actually done already now. So the EULAR invited speaker sessions are finished already now. Usually they are finished end of September, and then they are a bit finalized, and then speakers are already invited. So my big work has already been done. And then comes the work of the abstract chair, because then the abstract chair, as soon as all the abstracts are submitted in mid of January, it's the task of the abstract chair to organize all the abstracts and then make the sessions that concern the abstracts. So the poster sessions, the poster tour, and the oral abstract presentations. The good news is that it's not just the team of these two, but actually there's a whole Congress committee, of course. These are 25 people that help us in this work. And the Congress committee, first of all, consists of the EULAR president. So currently this is Daniel Aleta. He's the Congress committee chair. So actually, not the chair, so he's the president of the Congress committee as well. So in a way, he still has the last word. And then there are the chairs of the other EULAR committees. They are also in the Congress committee. So the chair of the Education Committee, the Research Committee, the Quality of Care, the Pediatric Society, the Health Professionals, and the PARE EULAR Committee, they are part of the Congress Committee as well. And then this is filled up with co-opted members. So this means these are scientists, researchers, experts in the field that are invited to become a part of the Congress Committee. Because, of course, not all the expertise can be covered by the other people. And then it's looked a bit that we can cover all the expertise that we normally, as reflected by the abstracts. And like this, we have 25 members that should more or less cover all the different aspects that we have within EULAR. So the Congress Committee, first of all, until, as I said, end of September, helps the Congress chair to design the invited speaker sessions. They suggest sessions, they suggest speakers that then the Congress chairs puts in the sessions and in the days and in the times and builds the program. And then now there is a bit of a break, and then the Congress Committee members, they have a different task, because then they become topic chairs. And topic chairs means that based on the keywords they give us, so based on their expertise, more or less, they are assigned to specific topics within the EULAR, of the EULAR program. So these topic chairs, then the first role is to assign reviewers for their topic. Now, usually every topic, so let's say, for instance, basic translational research, rheumatoid arthritis would be one topic, was my topic. You has 3 external reviewers plus the topic chair. So each abstract ideally is reviewed by 4 reviewers. Sometimes one of these 4 has a conflict of interest, and then it's 3 reviewers, but this is the minimum. So if 2 people have a conflict of interest, then another reviewer is found. So each abstract is scored by at least 3 reviewers. Most of them are scored by 4 reviewers. Now, some topics are easy. You design 3 reviewers and you do it the rest yourself, and that's it. Some topic chairs, because of course we are only 25 people, but we have a lot of topics. So some topics chairs have actually to take on multiple topics. So for instance, I had basic and translational research in rheumatoid arthritis, but also in systemic sclerosis. So that means I had to assign 6 reviewers for both of the topics. does also mean that I had to review 2 topics. And most of the topics chairs actually have to do this because, as I said, we have much more topics than we have Congress committee members. Some topics are really, really big. So sometimes, for instance, when we talk about rheumatoid arthritis, biological treatments, we have a lot of abstracts. So we need more than 3 reviewers because we cannot give reviewers 250 abstracts to score. So we have to split the abstracts, and one group of reviewers will get one part of the abstracts and another group of reviewers will get the other part of the abstracts. And still the topic chair has to review all the topics in all the abstracts in the topics. You see the reviewers, they have a lot to do, but we have a lot of reviewers. So now we have more than 340 reviewers already invited to invite the reviewers. More work actually hangs on the topic chair because the topic chair really has to review all the topics, all the abstracts that come in the topics. And there are a lot of abstracts. So last years we had over 4,500 abstracts submitted. And this year we actually expect the same number. So there are a lot of abstracts that have to be assigned to these different topics. And again, here the keywords are really important. So we really try to assign the abstracts to the right topic chairs, to the right topics, and to the right reviews so that they get a fair reviewing process. Now, as an example, for my topic last year, I had, as I said, the basic and translational research, basically, of rheumatoid arthritis, which were 130 abstracts, and SSC, which were 62 abstracts. So I had around 170 abstracts to score. And this is like the usual amount the topic chair has to score. Maybe even a bit little. I think normally topic chairs have to review around 200 abstracts. And I think this is a number that you have to keep in mind. Probably people think we spend much more time with the abstracts than we actually do. It's just the sheer number. You cannot score 200 abstracts if you have for every abstract an hour to score. This will just not work. So actually, you have to move forward with the abstract scoring. Otherwise, you will never finish. So how do we do the scoring? There is a score from 1 to 5. We don't give these exact annotations anymore because in a way there are guidelines a bit how this the numbers, what they mean more or less, but it's not that an abstract that is scored with a 3 will always be a poster. Sometimes abstract that is scored with 3 could even make an oral presentation because at the end of the day, you have to decide what is the overall quality of the abstracts you had in these topics. Maybe this was just the best abstract you had in this topic. Sometimes they fit also very nicely, for instance, in an invited speaker session, and you think, okay, actually the quality is good enough that we can actually put it in. Maybe the novelty was not so great, but since it fits very nicely this topic and it's a relevant topic, we put it in this invited speaker session. And you will see how this works later on. So it doesn't mean that always number 3 gets a poster and number 4 gets an oral. Now this actually is always true. Number 4 always gets an oral, but you can actually also get an oral presentation with a slightly lower score. So this is in a way how we just give an orientation also to the reviewers, what they should have in mind when they score. And then they can write comments. Some of them do, which is very helpful for the topic chair to understand a bit why they did this decision or what could be a weakness or a strength of that abstract. When they give a 5 or when they give a 1, so the best or the least, they have to write a comment because the topic chair has to know why this person now thinks this is such a great abstract, or more important, why the reviewer thinks this should be rejected. Because rejection is quite a harsh decision. Normally, we try to put abstracts in the abstract book if they don't meet the criteria to be a poster. Rejection really means that there is a real flaw in the outline of the abstract. So this is what the reviewers do. Then they have a box where they can say, I think this abstract is in the wrong category. This is what I meant previously with the wrong keywords. because the reviewers will feel that this doesn't fit to the 100 abstracts that he or she scored before, and also that his or her expertise does not really fit into what is described in the abstract. Then this is clicked, it comes back actually to the Congress team, and they will assign it based on the keyword or based on the context. So then actually Christian, as the abstract chairs, will have to read these abstracts and will say, I think this actually is this category, or I think it's that category. So at the end of the day, when everything is scored, the topic chair is the one who takes the decision, because sometimes it's not so clear from the reviewer scores where this abstract should go. I mean, sometimes it's really nice. The topic chair gets a 3, 3, 3 from his reviewers, and he or she thinks, okay, I also think this is a very solid, nice abstract. I give it a 3, so the score will be a 3. That's really easy, and thank God this is the majority of the abstracts. Not that clear, but more or less clear. Sometimes, however, it happens that one of the reviewers has serious concerns, and then you get a score as topic chair 4441. And this is then really difficult to decide what to do with this abstract. So the topic chairs have to go into the text of these abstracts. They have to look at the comments of the reviewers, why they actually thought this is good or this is bad, and then has to take the decision, was the one reviewer maybe wrong with the criticism and still thinks that this is a good abstract, or maybe one reviewer detected something that the others didn't see, and then actually this would be the score that is lower. So this is then the task of the topic chair, and at the end of the day, the topic chair decides also what will be the final score of the abstracts. So all the 4,500 plus abstracts are scored. Then, of course, sessions have to be built from these scores. So the topic chairs, again, they suggest what they want to have as oral presentations, what they think should be a poster, what they want to have in the poster tour. So usually it is from all the abstracts that are submitted, around 15% get an oral presentation, and around a third get a poster. And then you can see here a fourth of these around get a poster tour, and the other one get poster views. So this is suggested by the topic chairs. And then again, based on the keywords, Christian, as abstract chair, will have the final selection and the final session building, because the problem is a bit, we have limited slots of sessions. So we cannot make 35 abstract oral abstract presentation sessions, because we just don't have the time in the days of EULAR. So Christian then has to tell maybe some topic chairs, you suggested me 2 oral abstract presentations, but actually I don't have place for 2, so you have to cut down to 1 oral abstract presentation. And then the topic chair has to decide which ones then probably get a poster tour. The best ones, the best scored abstracts overall, go in the plenary session. Then there are the oral abstract presentations. And then also, again, based on the keywords, we try to put as many as possible into the invited speaker session. So that's why you always or mostly have that you have 2 or 3 invited speakers and then 1 or 2 abstracts at the end. It's just also to give the best scored abstracts the possibility to be presented as oral presentations, because as I said, we have a bit of limited availability of slots. So we try to put them in invited speaker sessions, also to enrich these sessions with new data, with novel data, with studies in progress. So there again, the keywords are really important, because it can give you like a second chance a bit to place your abstract in an invited speaker session. And then there are the late-breaking abstracts. And for the late-breaking abstracts, there are special rules. So the late-breaking abstracts are always selected only as orals. So there are no late-breaking posters. So that means that also there the selection criteria is much, much stricter. So they have to qualify for the quality has to be for an oral presentation. And also you need to describe why this could not be submitted at the normal deadline. And there cannot be a reason like we did not finish our experiments. this is not a reason to submit it in the late-breaking abstract. So the late-breaking abstract is not just a second chance if you couldn't finalize your abstract in time. Late-breaking can mean for some clinical trials, for instance, if the clinical trial just ended too late and there was no time for the data until 15th of January. Or, for instance, if you are a big consortium and you had to there was an embargo or something that the agreement could not get in from all of them. So you have to really write why this should be a late breaking and also why this should be selected as an oral presentation, because as I mentioned, the late breaking abstracts should be outstanding ones, not just the ones that missed the deadlines. So this is important to note. Please make sure that you meet the 15th January deadline and don't think, I will then just submit in the late breaking. This will be very critically viewed again. So now we have all of these abstracts, as you saw, and you saw how many there are. What can you do now that your abstracts shines, that the review thinks and the topic chair and the abstract chair thinks this is an abstract that we really have to give an oral presentation? So the first and most important criteria for this is the scientific quality and the novelty. And this is just something, I have to say, mostly either a project has it or doesn't have it. Some projects, they might just not be so novel. They might be nice and solid and they are good, but they don't have this novelty that it needs to be presented as a oral. And if the scientific quality is not there, then you just cannot put it as an oral presentation. But a lot of abstracts have this, and still selections have to be made. And then there are some criteria that might actually improve how you can push your abstract just over this oral border. And I want to give you some rules that you might follow so that your abstract maybe gets just selected. So the first rule that I want to give you on the way is be as concise as possible, but as detailed as necessary. And I will go into what I mean with this. I think what is important to note in this, an abstract is not a small paper. An abstract is an abstract. And this means you have to build it up differently. You cannot just take every second sentence from your paper that you plan and then put it in the abstract and think this will make a good abstract. You have to build it differently. And to help you building this is actually the structure of the abstracts. And it's there for a reason, because it helps the reviewers to understand what you did. So please use this really to explain what you did. So the background and the objectives, they're actually connected. So this should lay the ground. This should really open the door to what you did. And please, you don't have to write what rheumatoid arthritis is or that osteoarthritis is a very common disease. Remember, your reviewers are experts in this field, so they know the common problems in these topics, but they need the specific problems that you address. So you have to describe them. What is the issue that you address within this topic and what you actually addressed? So I want to give you some examples from last year that did this really, really well. And they came actually from the abstract that have been selected for the plenary session. So this first one, this was an abstract that described an artificial intelligence method to analyze MRI scans. And this is the background and the objectives that I wrote. And I just want to go with you through that, because even if you are not expert in the field, you will understand what they wanted to do. Because in the first sentence, actually what they do is they describe the relevance of what they do. So they say predicting early rheumatoid arthritis for extremity MRI facilitates timely treatment, possibly preventing chronicity. So in one sentence, they say, why is it important that we actually do this, what we did? And then in the next sentence, they say the need that is still there. Image interpretation by artificial intelligence may provide more accurate predictions than visual scoring. So this is the need that they actually address. And then in the objectives, no surprise, they say we developed a deep learning AI method that automatically analyzes extremity RA scans by pre and post-processing images in order to predict RA at an early stage. So this sets very nicely the ground. I know what is the need, what is the relevance, and I know exactly what they planned to do with this. This is another one, and this is an interesting one because this comes from a totally different side, so from patient education. And I have to say, I'm not an expert in this at all, but reading this abstract, I could really understand why this is an important abstract. So what they included, there's one more element that they included, is the problem that there is. So they state that the problem in a way is that quality of information on lupus on the internet is a real issue. Word of mouth, rumor, unchecked data, or unconfirmed research increases confusion, create anxiety, and can lead to incorrect action. So they tell me what is the problems. And then again, they tell me what is the relevance of their research. So patients need access to quality information about lupus. Therapeutic patient education is a key part of self-management of chronic conditions. And then again, the need, an essential component of this patient education, is access to valid information. Most patients in Europe don't speak English. And so that really guides me very nicely to objectives that they want to provide access to quality information on lupus online in the native languages of 95% plus of the European population. So I know exactly what I will expect in this abstract and what the problem, the relevance, and the need is. So I can tick these boxes already by reading the background and the objectives of this. So this was to the background of objects. And keep in mind, as concise as possible. Don't explain in a very long way, but say the detail. What is the problem? What is the need? And what is the relevance of what you do? Then the methods. How did we address this? This also often is problematic because we have very complicated studies. And as I said, it's not a small research, it's not a small paper. So you have to describe the methods a bit in a different way. And again, I want to show here an example from last year's plenary session. This is a basic translational abstract that has very, very complicated methods. It's about immunophenotyping. So they could write probably 4 pages about the methods they used. But how they did it is exactly right to tell a reviewer what they did, what methods they used, without going too much in detail. I mean, the methods in an abstract is also always a bit trust that the people really did it in a correct way, what they did, but they have to know what the methods were applied. So here they say they conducted a large-scale cohort-wide immunophenotyping of 46 peripheral immune cells using the human immunology protocol of comprehensive 8-color flow cytometric analysis. You see how complicated, but you also see how much information in the sentence is. So they had 46 peripheral immune cells. They did a cohort-wide large scale. They used a protocol that is established, and they used this 8-color flow cytometric. So a lot of information without going into detail. Then another very important, they give us an impression on how big is this data set. So the data consisted of more than 1,000 Japanese patients with 11 autoimmune-related diseases. And they give us the diseases they actually studied. And they tell us that they had in-depth, whatever that means, that is a bit vague, but longitudinal clinical analysis to identify RA patient cluster registered as the first registry. So we also saw they were in a registry, so there's probably rich clinical information there. And then they did inborn human genetics represented by the genome-wide polygenetic risk score. So I know there was an extensive immunophenotyping. We have a lot of patients, a good cohort. I know exactly which diseases were addressed. I know how much clinical data they have. I can imagine a bit what they looked at in the clinical data, and I also know that there's genetic data. This is enough to show the methods, because you cannot go in detail into all of these protocols. So also again, be concise and don't go too much into details. The results, of course, are important because this is where it's judged. Is this really the scientific quality is good? And is the novelty high? And I will address this in my second rule, how you make sure that this is really put into this. And then the conclusions. This is also very important. I think this is what was mostly done in, I don't want to say wrong way, but often the conclusions just are a summary of the results, which in a way is nice for the reviewer that he or she can read the results again, but it should be more than this. And again, I want to show this plenary abstract from last year because I think they did it so nicely. So first what they do is they repeat their results in a concise way, which I said is nice for the review. So we found blah, 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 no statistical significant difference, or the cost analysis showed no clear benefit. But then in the second sentence or in the second part, they explain what they conclude from this. So they found no statistical significant difference. This suggested non-inferiority of OTC compared to RC. Then they say the cost analysis showed this and this. Delegated, so this is about health professionals versus rheumatology treatment. So they give us an explanation what they think these results really mean. And I think that's a really nice way for you to be guided through your conclusions. So summarize your result in the first part of the sentence, and then they tell the reviewers what this actually implies or what this suggests or what this means. And here you have to step out. You can maybe even, I mean, this can be a hypothesis that you create, but you can tell a bit the reviewer what you really think does this mean. It's not good just to tell, we found a twofold increase in this. Yeah, nice. But what do you think? Is this relevant? Is this high? Is this low? So this is the point where you really have to put your cards on the table and say, what is the relevance and why you think, what does this really mean for the disease, for the pathogenesis, for clinical practice maybe. So that can make a really clear difference in how your abstract is rated. So this was rule number 1. Rule number 2 is give some numbers, and this relates to the method, to the results section. I also want to hear, this is an abstract we actually got, and I felt so much pity for this abstract because I think the results were really good, and I blackened out what was the actual parameter that was measured because I don't want to expose somebody, but just that you see what happens if you submit an abstract like this. So they say the measured parameter in patients with established RA was different from that of healthy participants. Young RA patients had reduced levels of this parameter when compared with older RA patients and healthy individuals. Overall, biological DMARDs and CS DMARDs, except sulfasalazine and TNF inhibitors, respectively, were not associated with the measured parameter in patients with established RA. However, the measured parameter was associated with a future good response to second-line CS DMARDs in patients who showed an insufficient response to first-line CS DMARDs. So potentially, very important, you see something that is different, you see it could have an age effect, it could even be predictive, but there is no number at all. So for me as a reviewer, it's really difficult to decide whether this is oral presentation. Just imagine I put this as an oral presentation, and then comes out that this was a study done in 5 patients, and the differences were actually really small. And the prediction done here was maybe done in a wrong way where I think should not have been done. So I just can, as a reviewer, not really judge the scientific quality based on the data they give it to me. So if you give in your abstract, you have to give some sort of numbers that the reviewer can have an indication how big was the cohort or the sample size that you studied, because this is just important to judge the scientific quality. The same as we need to have some measurement of an effect size, being it a correlation coefficient, a p-value, an x-fold change. If there is too many numbers, and I agree that it's not nice to have an abstract with many numbers, just put a figure or a table that the reviewers can see what was the effect of this. So this is rule number 2. Please give us some numbers, otherwise we cannot judge the scientific quality and people will rate it badly, because you cannot be sure what it is. Maybe this was very good, but at the end, I think it was a poster. It could have been an oral presentation easily. And then the third and last rule, which I can quickly do, is please, when you write an abstract, think of your audience. The first audience are the reviewers. This is me buried under all these abstracts, you know. If you read so many abstracts, you want to have a clear abstract. You don't want to have spelling mistakes. You want to have a clear English. You want that you read the abstract once and you got through it. A good hint is have your abstract read by someone who is not involved in your project. He will tell you, this is not clear to me, or why did you do this, or what jump is this now, or how could you conclude this based on the results? Because the reviews, even though they are expert in the field, they did not do your studies, so they cannot predict what you actually had in mind while doing this. So this is the first. Keep in mind, we have many, many, many abstracts to review. Make it easy for them to read your abstract. The second audience is the audience at the Congress. And this is also what the abstract chair has in mind and the Congress chair, so me, have in mind. We want to present relevant, new, exciting research, and they want to discuss with you. So in your abstract, make sure that you state what makes your abstract interesting and relevant, you know, what could be discussion points. So sometimes I read an abstract and you think, oh, maybe here and there are a few flaws, maybe even the results are, but this would be very interesting to see what people discuss about this. So this is like a new way to look at something. So I want to have it in my poster session, for instance. So keep in mind, this is a Congress. So new data should be shown, interesting data should be shown, and shown that is relevant for discussion. So scientific quality, novelty, relevance, clarity, and it should be of interest of your target audience. And when you tick all these boxes, with a bit of luck, you can get into the plenary session. And this is an abstract where I had my first plenary session. I was very nervous because it's a very big room. And if I look back now, I have to say it was really luck because we had a very interesting topic. Sometimes it doesn't happen that you have just an abstract or a research topic that is so novel and sparkling. I had other abstracts where I had posters, which I had very nice experience as well, because you stand at your poster and can discuss. So it's not always that you have to aim for the highest. Sometimes a poster presentation is also very nice. And sometimes in some years, maybe you just don't have research that can be presented at EULAR. I think it's a pity, but it's also not the end of the world. Don't be too strict on yourself and just give your best. And if it's worthwhile, if it can be presented, it's good. And if not, life goes on. Maybe it will be a nice paper.